Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Unstuck podcast. I am your host, Demi Harper. This is the podcast where we help creatives pursue their passion using branding, creativity, innovation, and any practical tips to help you be the best creative entrepreneur that you can be. Use the hashtag Unstuck podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, anywhere that you might use any social media platform of your choice, and let us know what you think about this episode and share it with someone. And if it helped you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend of yours that might be a creative that's trying to pursue their passion or to launch an idea. I do think the information here is very valuable. Anyway, before I waffle on, as is a habit of mine, I hope you guys have been doing good for the past couple of weeks. I hope you tuned into my previous episode with Ayo Kunu, and the photographer / pastor, ministry leader. He does a whole bunch of stuff, and we had a very interesting conversation about creativity and faith. So if you are someone who has a faith and is a creative person, whether you're in church or whatever, you can go back and listen to that episode after listening to this one. I think you gain a lot from it, and it's a very realistic conversation about what we do. Even if you don't have a faith, it's going to show you how to not be taken advantage of or to manage people's expectations and stuff like that. It's a very good insight. Anyway, leaning on from that, what we want to talk about today, what I want to talk to you guys about today, is along the same lines. It is how to increase your rate as a creative. Here's the problem. Okay, we have people always want a bargain when you're going shopping. Just today I was shopping for Easter eggs to get, and they were expensive. I don't know why Easter eggs are so expensive. They are silly. But anyway, I spent like £15 on this Easter egg, and I was like, raw, and it was the only Easter egg in the shop at the time, and I was like, oh crap, I have to get this Easter egg, otherwise I might not be able to get some later. So I was looking for a bargain on an Easter egg. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it. There is nothing wrong with looking for a bargain, right? We all do it. We all want to pay less for something that brings us value, and that's absolutely fine. But the problem is, as a creative, you're not taken very seriously. So people that come to use your skills, whether it's photography, videography, drawing, events planning, people don't really take it seriously and they're always looking for a bargain. So those two issues combined can be a problem. And this is what we're facing as creatives, is that we find it extremely hard to charge what our worth is, because we aren't taken seriously in the world. A little background. Okay, shut up. A little background about me. I spent some time freelancing quite a few years ago. That was my main thing. I just quit a job that wasn't paying me very well. In fact, they were really undercutting me. So this is even helps you, as this topic we're talking about is actually relevant when you're trying to find a job as well. But anyway, I was already undervalued. I had a job and they were only paying me 12k or 13k. I don't even know if that was legal, but whatever. They were only paying me 13k, and it was my first job. It was actually my first proper job out of university. When I graduated from university, I volunteered for about a year and a bit, and so I don't really class that as a real job. My first paying job, I was really underpaid, and luckily I was living with family at the time. My aunt, Caroline, she's actually on this podcast as well. You should go back and listen to it. It's a very insightful episode. But I was living with her, and without her, I wouldn't be able to be where I am now, to be honest. So I didn't have that many overheads to pay for. I didn't have to pay rent and all that kind of stuff. But I was still underpaid, and I was fed up. I was very fed up of it because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I got the job, but I was hired as a social media manager rather than a graphic designer. And in the job, the expectation was to get more money I'll get more money, what's the word? Commission based on the amount. It was a web design agency, and I was supposed to get commission based on the business I brought in through social media. And I didn't get any business through social media because that wasn't my specialty, but I learned a lot about social media. But I was talking to a lot of designers and developers, and I was learning about web design. That's where I primarily learned about web design and how to do it and how to actually manage projects and how to pitch to clients and all that stuff. I learned a lot in that job. It served its purpose as well. But it came to a point where I was just like, what am I doing here? So I quit the job. I didn't ask permission from anyone. I quit the job. And a lot of people did not understand why I quit that job. But I quit that job because it wasn't serving any purpose. And I knew I was being undervalued, even though I had the skills to do the job really well eventually. So I left, and I didn't have any job. I didn't have any job waiting for me. So I decided I'm going to freelance. So I freelanced. I started up a company myself, and I can't remember what it's called. I think it was just called OJ Harper Design at the time. And I started it up, joined an incubator. Oh, I have stories to tell. Incubators are great, but I have stories to tell. So remember the story I was telling you about in my previous episode about the 2 church leaders who decided not to pay me and to steal my work? That was from the incubator. Now, that would never happen today because now I know my worth, right? But back then I didn't know my worth. So I was taking any job that came, whether it was flyers, whether it was logo design, whether it was website design, whether it was anything that came to me, I would take it, and I would lowball myself in terms of with the work, right? And it was more stress than it was worth because I did not know my value. And I was managing the projects and I was outsourcing the development. Like I did a whole website. Imagine I did a whole website, designed it, had a developer build it. This was built on WordPress. It was a good website. It had a database. It was a good website for the time. And guess what? They paid we agreed like, okay, we're gonna do it in 4 installments. Yeah, normally I'll take 50% at the beginning and then the remaining 50% at the end. But we agreed, okay, we had a good relationship. We're gonna do it in 4 installments. So we broke it down. Can you imagine the last installment? They were giving me the runaround. They were avoiding me like the plague. They really, really were avoiding me. And they decided not to pay me. It was really weird because the communication was good up until the last payment, the last installment. And I was emailing them, texting them, calling them. Did not get any response. And the most was like, oh, your money is coming. I was just like, I have a team to pay. You need to pay me now. Because I was like, okay, for good, and this is what I'm going to talk about, about favors, But let me finish the story first. I'm really going in. So I was like, okay, we have a good relationship. I'm going to put the site live, and then you guys pay me, right? So the site was live. Didn't get any payment. Waited. Days went by. No payment. Weeks went by. No payment. It must have been like a month or something. I can't remember what time it was, but I know it was a long time before they paid me. And do you know what I had to do to get them to pay me? I wrote a very formal email saying, dear so-and-so, your site has been live for so amount of time. I have chased you up to pay me, right? If you do not pay me within this time frame, I will be taking the site off and you will not have a website. So guess when they paid me? I got a text immediately saying, you don't need to send such an email. I'm going to pay you now. And the person paid me immediately. And I was like, thank you very much. And I cut the relationship off. This is because they were stealing from me. And I was starting to be like, nah, I am not an idiot. Like, don't take me for an idiot. But that would never have happened if I knew my worth and I charged more. You've got to charge more. Yeah, you have to increase your rates. And this is a problem. I'm not the only one that's faced this problem. I spent a lot of time freelancing, taking on work that was low value. I wasn't getting paid a lot for them, and they were a lot of stress. You will find quite often, this is the pattern. The lower the rates that you charge, the more stress the project is. You'll find that clients that pay more are actually less stress for some reason. I don't know why. I think maybe it's just from my experience, but when I was freelancing, a lot of the stress that I got was from really low paying work, and it just wasn't worth my time. So how do you increase your rate, and what problem does it solve? Well, the problem that it solves is that it makes your time worth it, right? I don't believe in, like I said in one of my previous episodes, I don't really believe in doing, for example, free work unless it's bringing some kind of value to you. And we're all trying to get paid here. We're all trying to live a life. We have bills to pay. We have things to invest in. We have a life to build, and you cannot do that if you don't increase your rates. I think the website I did back in the day, like what I was talking about, was about £700. It was a cheap website, I guarantee you. And that was at a time where things like Squarespace Squarespace, Wix. I'm not a fan of Wix, but Wix and Webflow and stuff were not a thing. You had to build everything from scratch, and responsive websites weren't really a thing yet. So a responsive website, what I mean is a website that it's responds to what device you're using, so it changes shape and all that kind of stuff. So you don't get desktop only websites anymore. But yeah, I think the website was responsive too. I don't remember, but it was a long time ago. The website was a good ass website, and I only charged about between 700 and 800 pounds for it, and they were still giving me the runaround for that much money. That was tiny. But I was like, I'm just starting out. I might as well do it for this amount, and I'll get more work. Did not get more work from it. Now, if you're listening to this, and that's me, and you're thinking, yeah, you're talking about me, I have news for you. You need to increase your rates, and I'm going to show you exactly how. First off, it starts with you. It totally starts with you. The problem is in our minds, because people haven't taken us seriously, we don't give people we don't charge people the amount that we feel that we should be charging or what we're worth. So we constantly lowball ourselves when people say, how much is it for you to shoot a video for my party, or how much is it to bake this cake? We lowball people, and we're like, let's just cover our expenses. We don't really think about, everything else. And that's the problem. We're the problem, to be honest. Us creatives are the problem, because we allow people to take the piss, So, but how much do you think you're worth? How much do you really think you're worth? It really does start with you. If you don't value yourself if you value yourself low, other people's are gonna do the same. Other people's, see my English, but other people are gonna do the same. If you lowball yourself in your mind, people can tell that you're acting cheap. So therefore, they're not gonna take it seriously, and they are not gonna want to pay. No one's gonna want to pay, because you don't think you're of value. If you literally think you're the best person at what you do, you are not going to charge what you charge. But because you don't think you're the best person at what you do, that is why you're charging low, and you're the problem. The clients are not the problem, because anybody wants to get a bargain. Every single person wants to get a bargain. So it's not them that's the problem. You are the problem. As the creative, you are the problem, because you don't think you're the best. You don't think you're the best at what you do. If you know you're the best at what you do, why charge really low? Why lowball yourself? Why act like you have no value? If you knew that you are the best, or one of the best at what you're doing, that you are, there's no one that can do what you do the way you do it. If you knew that, there is no way that you will not increase your rates, because you'd be like, I know my value. It starts with you. I was there. I was doing £50 logos. £50 logos. wouldn't dare do a £50 logo. There's a reason I don't do flyers anymore. If you want to do a flyer, find someone that specializes in flyers. I ain't gonna do flyers anymore because it's not worth the time. It doesn't pay enough for me. So it starts in here. It's a mindset thing. If you don't think you are worth charging more, you are never going to charge more, and no one's ever going to pay you. Yeah, that's essentially it. It all starts in the mind. And remember, the client is only trying to find the best price. So if someone comes and says, oh, you are too expensive, there's nothing wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with you for reacting and saying, it would be wrong for you to be offended at someone wanting a better price, right? And there's nothing wrong with haggling. If you charge a price and they can't afford it, then you can go lower, but don't go so low that it's not worth your time. Like, why are you wasting your time? Why are you doing what you're doing? You're doing what you're doing in order to make a profit. You're not doing what you're doing in order to suffer and punish yourself, because all you're doing is punishing yourself for being good at what you do. Why should you punish yourself? If you're the best at what you do, why are you punishing yourself? I digress. I'm going to move on to the practical steps because I'm just annoying myself. I get really annoyed because I've been there and I see a lot of people. I've spoken to people saying, oh, I only charge maybe £200 for a logo. I know some of you listen to this are like, oh, that's a lot for a logo. No, it ain't. That is super cheap for a logo. That is super cheap. I'm just like, you need to at least double it. And even when you double it, even when you double it, that's still going to be too cheap, in my opinion. So I don't know. I don't understand, I understand it. I understand why people charge low. I've been there, I can empathize, but it's your fault. At the end of the day, it's your fault. So I don't want to give you any sympathy because you don't need that sympathy. You need someone to tell you as it is and say that you are good at what you do. I've told people, you're so good at what you do. Why are you charging so low? Why? Don't you put a lot of pain and like blood and tears and sweat into what you do? Why are you charging so low? But another reason why people charge so low is because they're scared of not getting the work, which is what I am going to get onto. But let me go through this list of practical steps. You're saying, Demi, you're saying all this kind of stuff. So, okay, how do I increase my rates practically? I'm just like, increase your rates. If I just say increase my rate, like if I just tell you, just increase your rates, I could end this podcast episode right here. Just increase your rates. Essentially, that's what it is. Just increase your rates. You don't need permission. You don't need to look at other people and say, oh, that's how much you're charging for the most part. You just need to increase your rates. Just increase it. It's not rocket science. Rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's simple. Just increase your rates. Increase it. Double it. Triple it. Quadruple it. Do whatever. Just increase it. It's just like, you find that the amount that you increase your price to is the amount of confidence that you have. There's a direct link to the amount of confidence that you have. If I don't really design anymore for people because I'm focused more on brand strategy. But if I was to do a logo for somebody, there's no way I am charging anywhere near what Fiverr charges. And Fiverr has its place, but Fiverr is for like the kind of stuff that if you want to just kind of get your stuff off the ground, it's great for that. But I don't do Fiverr kind of work because I will charge way more than Fiverr. So, if you're a Fiverr creative, that's fine. Stay in your lane and create your lane and have the amount that you're doing. But I cannot charge cheap and have loads of work because that's stress. I'd rather charge way more and concentrate, put all my efforts into this one thing and give them a complete bespoke service that I can concentrate on and give them so much value that they can't say no to my price. I'd rather do that. I'd rather have less people doing that are paying me more because it's less stress. So How do you differentiate? How do you practically increase your rates? First off, you need to differentiate yourself by being the best at what you do. That's the first thing you need to do. Be the best at what you do, because if you are not the best at what you do, you shouldn't be charging much. If you're rubbish at what you do. In fact, there's people that are less talented than you that are rubbish at what you do, and they have the confidence to charge way more than you do. Way more. They started companies. They're running their own business based on meh. In level of skills is meh. But people don't know. They don't know that's the level of, like, there's a higher level. There's people that do, you're much better than other people that you've seen. Meanwhile, those people are making more money than you because they have the audacity to increase their rates. They have the audacity to charge more. You need to have the audacity to charge more. Have the audacity to do it, you know? And that's why you have to differentiate yourself and be the best at what you do. If you are the best at what you do, I'll say it again. If you are the best at what you do, you will not charge low. If you are confident that you are the best at what you do, you have differentiated yourself from your competitors. Do focus on one thing. If there's one thing you do really, really well, that nobody else can do it better than you, yeah? Use that to differentiate yourself. Wumi, Angry Black Wumi, she's been on my podcast before talking about her journey and stuff like that. And she's just released a product line. She's differentiating herself from other chefs that you see on Twitter and Instagram. She's differentiated herself because she's the one, when it comes to West African cuisine, she does the products, she does the recipes, she does the cook-alongs, she does the personal chef service. She does everything when it comes to West African cuisine. She is the specialist. She has become the specialist. So Wumi is not going to be charging any rubbish pricing. It's got to be worth her while because she has a business to run and she takes her business seriously. If you take your business seriously, stop lowballing yourself. You know, differentiate yourself by being the best at what you do, even if it's one thing. If you are an events planner and you're really good at proposals, you're amazing at planning proposal events, and you're the best at doing that, you better differentiate yourself and lean into that one and be confident to say, this is the once in a lifetime experience that you don't want to be rubbish, that you want it to be extremely memorable. This is worth the money. See what I mean? Differentiate yourself by creating your own lane and being the best at it. Just being the best. And it doesn't matter if someone else is doing what you do. It doesn't matter. You know? It really doesn't matter. As long as you're the best person at doing it. There's nothing new under the sun. I'm not the first brand strategist. Especially for creatives. I'm not the first. But I can be the best. You're not the best, you're the first at doing what you're doing. But you can be the best. You need to find out what it is that you do best and do it. It's really not that complicated. So the next thing you need to do is work out how much it actually costs you in labor and expenses. We normally just charge, sometimes creatives, because we don't think of us. This is also our shortcoming, is that we don't think of ourselves as business people. We think of ourselves like, I'm a creative. I don't want to deal with all this business stuff. I don't want to deal with all this accounting. I don't want to deal with all this keeping up this bookkeeping and stuff. But I was about to get all Samuel L. Jackson on you because you do. Insert expletive before that. But you do. You have to deal with all of that. You have to think of yourself as a businessman. Again, we get in our own way because you're a businessman or you're a businesswoman and you don't acknowledge the fact that you have to do that. You run a business. How can you not have the mind of a businessman or a businesswoman? I used to be like that. I was like, I don't want to deal with all this accounting. I'm not a businessman. But I had to start admitting I am a businessman. Because it's my business. And I have to deal with the side that I don't enjoy doing. You know? So that made me realize, okay, I really have to work out what my expenses are and what my labor costs are. It's not just doing the work. It's not just a deliverable. So what I mean by deliverable is, let's say you're designing a flyer. Let's go back to the flyer thing because, let's say you're designing a flyer. Don't just focus on the deliverable. Don't just charge for the flyer alone that they're going to print and go give it out and you only get 0.01% return on investment. That's their business. I'm a bit shady. Don't just focus on the deliverable. You got to focus on, you also have to include the other things that go into making that flyer. For example, you've got the time spent working on that flyer, including unbilled hours. Unbilled hours meaning time spent in meetings, Zoom meetings, saying this is our feedback for the flyer, right? The time spent designing the flyer, including research, initial ideas, development, finalization. All of that, yeah. Let's say you had 4 stages: research, initial ideas, development, and finals, yeah. In between each of these, so you have a 1-hour meeting before the research. You do research for a couple of hours. Then the thing keeps repeating. Another hour meeting before development. Another hour meeting before finalization. In total, you have about, if my math is correct, that's at least about 12 hours. It's most of the time it's more. In fact, that would be about, maybe I would say about 20 hours, right? If your hourly rate was, let's keep it low, right? If your hourly rate was £20, just to keep it simple, because maths is not my strong point. That's why I'm not an accountant. If you're charging £20 an hour and you spend 20 hours on this flyer, 20 times 20 times 10 is already £200. Double that, £400. And that's from £20 an hour. If this was a flyer for a really big company, they will not bat an eyelid. But if this is a flyer for like someone that's just starting out, of course they can go to like another like Upwork or something like that to get it done cheap. But if you are the best flyer maker and the return on investment that people get to come to their events or for their businesses is always really high, it's greater than the 0.01%, you can charge more because you're gonna have results and you can prove those results. And flipping hell, you've put work into it. I'm using flyer as an example, but what if you're a musician, right? Work out what your labor costs are, because it's not just the event that you're playing at. If you're a guitarist, you're not just playing for maybe 2-3 hours at an event, you're also rehearsing, you're also traveling, you are also practicing. Well, I said rehearsing, practicing, blah blah blah. And then there's the actual cost of actually doing all of that, the energy, the personal, the physical and mental toll it takes on you to do your creative work. That is worth something too. So you can't just be charging £50 to go play somewhere. This is not a charity. You're not, unless you're trying to do charity, unless it's like a charity event or something. You are trying to make a living. And you can't make a living if you keep lowballing yourself. Increase your rates, bro. What's this? Next thing you need to do is start saying no. Start saying no to low value work. Remember what I said before where I was saying yes to everybody. I was saying yes to everybody that came, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, just come in and, saying, I need this flyer done. I need this website done. I need this e-commerce website done. Yay. Okay. I'm going to do it. Even though I hate building websites. Okay. I'm going to do it. But the more time you say yes to people that you don't actually want to do the work for, it's less time saying yes to people that you actually want to do the work for. I would rather be designing brand identities. I love doing brand identities. I love doing logos. I love doing the whole kind of guidelines and stuff like that. I love that kind of thing. I have no business doing websites. So if someone comes and says to me, I need a website done, I say no. I'm just like, no, I'm not. That's not my thing. It'll be a complete waste of your time and my money and your money. It'll be too much stress for me because I'm not as efficient building a website. I'm not as efficient when it comes to that, but I am efficient when it comes to doing the whole brand identity, brand strategy, those kind of things. I'm efficient because I know my stuff. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, so I can charge more for that. But for a website, I'm not going to charge much for it. I mean, I will charge a lot for it, but I'm not going to do it. That's also why it's important to differentiate yourself, because people aren't going to come to you to do the stuff that you don't like doing. And you can say no to things. People think we have to say yes to everything because we're scared that we're not going to eat. But what we're saying yes to are projects that aren't paying us enough to actually eat. Imagine you go do the work and after all your expenses, it's not even enough to pay your rent. Imagine that you have rent to pay. That also goes into your price. It's not just the work, it's actually your living costs. You need to be able to cover your living costs. You're trying to make a living. So as a creative, you can't be charging low. You can't. You owe it to yourself to charge more, to charge what you're worth and more. Because you're trying to get better at the end of the day. So start saying no to low value work. If someone comes to you and says, oh, I want you to do this, I want you to put together this presentation for me, or I want you to to help me with my social media, but I don't have a budget. All I have is, all I can afford is 100 quid. Okay, I'll be like, okay, I'm afraid for the amount of work that it takes, £100 is not enough. I would normally charge around £800 for this kind of thing. And they'll be like, whoa, okay. Sorry, I can't afford you. And then you'll be like, okay, that's absolutely fine. I can suggest to you, so you can be like, okay, there's someone else that will probably be able to do the work in the amount that you've said. Unfortunately, with the amount of time and effort that it takes, £100 doesn't cover what it is that we do. And we all have to learn how to start saying no. And you can say no without saying the word no. Because what I would say is, someone will ask me, okay, how much does it cost to do a brand strategy? I'll say it'll cost so and so £100, right? And upwards. So I'll say it charges roughly around this amount. And they'll be like, oh, I can't afford that. But normally they don't walk away. If they want to find a way if what they're doing is so important, they will find a way to pay for it. And a lot of the time you can actually set up a plan for that person. If they can't afford it all at once, set up a plan for them. But don't lowball yourself. Start saying no to low value work. And it starts there. Again, remember, it starts in the mind. Like, it's a mindset thing. If you keep on saying yes to low value work, it shows that you don't value the work that you're doing. It shows that you don't value your skill set. It shows that you don't think your skill set is worth much, even though you're very good at doing it. They came to you. At least take that. They're like, oh, this person can do something. The fact that they can't do it and you can do it shows that what you have is valuable and it has a price. So start saying no to work that's going to waste your time. And remember, the cheapest work is normally the one that's the most painful to do. And it's like, you want to be able to make the stress worth it. If someone's paying me loads and loads and loads, like thousands to do something, and I don't the stress would be worth it. Rather than someone only paying me a couple £100 and stressing me day in, day out. It's not going to be worth it, because the stress on top of that, the stress is worth something. Get paid for the stress. Look, if you're paying me the most, yeah, you can do unlimited revisions because you're paying for it. But if you're only paying me like a really, really cheap price, I'm not going to give you unlimited revisions. I'm not going to do any of that because it's not going to be worth my time or worth the stress. So, next, you need to stop doing favors. Stop it. You don't owe anybody anything. Another thing, you don't owe anybody any favors. Stop doing favors. Stop saying, oh, I'm just going to throw this in for free. Stop it. There's something about giving value. So if you give value, so value is different to favors, yeah? Because there's a reason people give free samples and free and discounts and stuff like that. There's a reason people do that, and it's because they actually want something in return, and it's part of their strategy. If it's not part of your strategy and you're just doing someone favors that they're not even going to appreciate, why are you doing it? Why are you giving them a massive discount as a favor? Why? Unless there's like family. If you feel like you have to give them a favor, like do them a favor as family or friends, then maybe you need to rethink your target audience, because you don't really want that guilt of charging them full price all the time. If I don't know you, I am not giving you any discounts, bro. Or sis, I am not giving you no discount. Unless there's like it was a special occasion or something. I'll be like, okay, for people that do this, I'm going to be giving certain amounts off my program. For example, if it's like Black History Month, I will do discounts for Black History Month, but I'm not all the time. The problem is all the time you're doing favors all the time. You're like, actually, this thing cost me so much, but I'm gonna knock it off a couple £100. Like, what? The only time I do that is if I owe the person something, or I feel like, I really believe in what they're doing and I want to be part of it. Then I'll be like, you know what, let's do this together and I'm going to give you a discount. But if I don't know you, I'm not doing you any favors. Why should I do you any favors? You haven't asked me for any favors, and it might actually be insulting to the other person if you're giving them favors. It's like, okay, you assume, why are you doing this? Because sometimes you give them a discount, they're like, oh, okay, fine. They're not going to argue. Or you throw in something free. Like if you've taken photography at, if you've done photography for someone's wedding and you just give them the raw footage for what, the raw pictures, the one that you use to edit and everything and the whole shebang, every picture that you've taken, right? Just as a favor, you are doing something wrong, and it's not their fault for taking advantage that they take advantage of you. You've given them the space to take advantage of you, because from what I know, photographers keep the photographs that aren't used as their own and give you your selection, and you have to pay for the rights, because you have to pay for the rights of the image. So it's just like me when I was designing logos. I don't give the customer all my initial ideas, all my sketches and all that stuff. Those belong to me, and they actually pay for the rights. They have to pay for the rights to use the logo because it's intellectual property. This is why these things creativity is so quote unquote expensive, because it's intellectual property. It's the only thing that exists of what it is, and it came from your mind. So why would you sell it for cheap? Why? For someone to be doing t-shirts, putting it on TV, putting it on websites, putting it in apps and all that kind of stuff, and that came from your mind? Hello, excuse me, why are you doing £50 for it? An entire photo shoot, £50, and you're giving them all the pictures? Are you mad? So stop doing favors because you don't owe anybody anything, unless you actually owe them something, then it's fine. Also, you need to stop justifying your skill set. When someone says, how much does so and so cost, and you're saying, oh, it costs this and this, it costs £800, £1,000, £2,000 because I have to do this and da 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 da, and you're making out, you're just telling the long story to justify the fact that you're charging someone a certain amount. No one asked you to explain. So what are you doing? Why are you explaining yourself? Charge more, but don't explain yourself. You don't have to explain yourself. People buy products all the time. People buy PS5 and they don't question how much it is. In fact, they'll buy more than what it's worth because of scalpers. Hello? Are you listening to me? Stop justifying your skill set. Stop justifying your price, because what you're telling the other person is that you're trying to convince them that it is worth this price. And you're also trying to convince yourself, get that affirmation that what you're charging is fine. But if you were confident enough that what you're charging is what you're charging, you won't explain yourself. There's no need to explain yourself. Practice. This is what Chris Doe says from the future. You need to get comfortable in the silence. Tell them you're charging them a couple grand and leave it. Leave the space for silence and let them think about it. Say, okay, how much is it to, I don't know, guys, I don't know how much a fitness instructor costs, but this is just my guess, right? Okay, how much does your fitness course to get toned for my wedding or toned for my birthday, how much is it going to cost? Oh, it's going to cost about $2,000. You see that silence? That's what you want. You want that silence. You want them to sit in it. You want them to think about it. You want to see their reaction. And the reaction is normally like, oh, I can't afford that. I was looking around the ballpark of this. And that's when you can differentiate whether that client is for you or not. And if you really want the client, you can give them a discount, but like, you know, or give them a program, like a payment program, do something with the payments, but just let them sit in it. Let them think about it. Let them know that what you do isn't cheap. Let them know that what you're doing is worth value, because when you tell them it's worth a certain amount and you don't explain yourself, it shows confidence and it shows that you know what your value is, and it shows them what your value is. They wish they could afford you because you're the best at doing it. Remember, we said you need to be the best. You need to be the best at one thing that you do. But if you're the best at what you are doing, they're not going to argue. They're going to want to pay for it, and they're going to want to raise the money because people have gone away and come back to me and paid me. So no doesn't necessarily mean not ever. But when people hear no, they hear rejection. You know, when the client is like, oh, I don't want to, like, I can't afford it. But that's not rejection. That's not a rejection of you. It's just that they can't afford it. It's not rejection. Stop taking that, a client not taking you on as their like service provider, as rejection, because a lot of the time they go off and work out how they can afford you. They can work out how they can afford you, because these people are spending money on gadgets. People are spending money on new cars. They're spending money on, like I said, PlayStation 5. They're spending money on handbags that are hundreds of pounds. They're spending money on hair. They're spending money on new trainers. They will find a way. You can't spend all your money on new Nikes and tell me you can't afford my service. If you really want it, you will find a way. You will find a way to pay for it. And most of the time, they do. If they refuse to, if they don't find a way to pay for it, I don't really take them as seriously. Or I just say they're not ready. Because sometimes they do come back. And leaves room for another person to come and take their space. So stop justifying why your price is the way it is. And if they ask why, well, you can explain it, but it's just gonna be like, I'm really good at what I do and I'm the best at it, so this is how much I charge. That's good enough. And it's always, like I said, it's always better to charge more and take the stress and it be worth it, rather than charge less and it not be worth the stress. So that was a lot. But I'm going to read this list again, just so that you guys can really, really take this in. So, what are the practical steps you need to take in order for you to increase your rates? First off, you've got to differentiate yourself and be the best at what you do. Secondly, you've got to work out how much it actually costs in labor and expenses and while you're doing the work, and then increase it based on that. Even more. You have to work to a profit. Then you have to start saying no to clients that aren't worth your time. You have to start saying no to projects that aren't paying you much, and start saying yes to people that will pay. Work out who will pay. That's another thing. You need to work out who will pay that much. That's why your target audience and brand strategy is so important, because you cannot sell and increase your rates and keep selling to people that can't afford you. You need to work out who can afford you and go to them and let them come to you. You need to stop doing favors when you don't owe anybody anything, especially strangers, right? You don't owe them a thing. So stop doing these favors. You also need to stop justifying your price. Stop justifying how much you're charging because you're insecure. We all have insecurities, but we shouldn't let those navigate how we sell ourselves. Stop explaining. Just give them the price, give them the quote, and be comfortable in the silence. And remember that it's always better to charge more, because it makes it worth the stress if it's going to be stressful. I hope you've enjoyed that episode. It was quite a heavy episode, but it is very, very important for a creative who's trying to do something with their life and is trying to make a living. You cannot make a living if you do not increase your rates. So I've got an assignment for you today. For the next couple of weeks, when you get your next client, what I want you to do, I want you to double your rate and see what happens. So the next person that comes and inquires about your service, double your rate and give them a quote based on that and see what happens. Then share it with me. Let me know how it went. Use the hashtag Unstuck Podcast and let me know how it went. Or DM me, tell me your stories. But what I want you to do is to double your rates and see what happens. You will be very surprised at who will pay, and you'll be surprised at how less stressed you actually are because you're actually getting more money. Use the hashtag Unstuck Podcast. Do you agree or disagree with anything I have said? I would love to have a conversation with you guys. Remember, I am on Twitter, I am on Instagram, and I am on YouTube. And you can find this, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all your major podcast streaming platforms. We'll get another episode again in 2 weeks. But for now, I hope you guys have a good couple of weeks and keep on pursuing your passion. Thanks for listening and watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.